I'm excited about how Spirit creates opportunities. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to share with you and for you to have a greater sense of who I am. And I selected the Kickin' and Screamin' song. It's one of my favorites because many of us start our journey just that way. We know stuff's not working real well and we want to change, but man, can't we just take it with a pill, swallow it down and be better, more evolved, more inspired. So that song was just a wonderful way to remind me how far I've come on my journey. And I want to share a little bit about my journey of intention, since that's been our theme and we've been talking about that. I practiced this teaching from my late 20s, but I never went into a church building. And when I hit my mid-40s, early 40s, I said, you know, in order for me to meet like-minded people vibing the same way I'm vibing, I'm going to have to find a place in which I can meet these people. They're not knocking on my door, and I'm not meeting them elsewhere. And so I researched a center that was in my area, San Jose Center for Spiritual Living, and I walked in the doors, and it's a very, very big building. And I walked in the doors, and my personality is not one to sit in the back row. But I sat kind of in the back row so that in case, you know, that kicking and screaming thing came into play, I could bolt pretty easily without drawing attention to myself. And it was a fill-in minister. The Reverend was actually, you know, either on vacation or something. That's what transformation sounds like. And so I went to hear him speak, this woman speaking. She was a little dry, and I thought, I'll go back next week. I went back next week, moved up a couple of rows. And at that time, at that center, the music ministry was led by Reverend Dr. Melissa Felipe, who just sung that song. And it was amazing. It was a full house, huge music, and then this guy gets up and speaks, and I'm just thinking, oh, okay. So the next few weeks, of course, I wind up sitting closer and closer to the front. I've now realized that I'm not going to bolt, and I'm going to move right up in there. And the first thing that I did after I was there a few months is I signed up for Foundations class. Because I thought, you know, I want to jump in and I want to really learn and understand. And this class is the basic foundation of what we're teaching. And I started taking this class, and I called the minister and I asked for an appointment to talk to him. I had no idea what I was going to say to the minister, but I wanted to talk to him. And I'm very emotional. And so when I get full of emotion, I start to cry, which is very embarrassing. So here I am. I've made an appointment with the minister, and he's kind of like, so, what's up? What would you like to talk about today? And this huge emotion comes over me, and I say to him, I don't know. And you know he's probably tapping his fingers and toes thinking, well, honey, you made the appointment, so something's going on. What do you want to talk about? And he very gently said, okay, well, let's just take a moment and let's just pretend that if you did know, what would that be? And what blurted out of my mouth was, I want to know how to get your job. Well, first of all, that freaked me out because that was Spirit speaking. I don't know where the heck that came from. And he just nicely said, cool. My job particularly, or the path to ministry? And of course, it was the path to ministry. And he smiled and jokingly said, good, I was getting worried there for a minute. And he took out some paper and he drew out the course curriculum. And at that time, we had two organizations. We had United Centers for Spiritual Living, and we had RSI International. Same philosophy, same teaching, political issues in the mix. And he said, these are the courses you need to go to, but if you don't have a bachelor's degree, then you can't go to Holmes Institute for ministry. You're going to have to go a different route. I said, let's not worry about that right now. Let's work on this piece. I'm not worried about that right now. But in my mind, my clear intention, I spoke that moment. I wanted to be a minister. it came from Spirit, wasn't sitting on my plate that I was aware of. So I did all my classwork, declaring continuously, I'm going to be a minister. And I went to class with a young lady who has since become a minister. I say young lady because I was in my mid-40s and she was like 21. Huge difference. But she reminded me of me at her age, full of fire and passion and not the parts of Spirit that we let society kind of squelch our thunder a little bit and tell us to chill down because we're too bright and we're too loud and we're too spontaneous. So I was hanging around her because I thought maybe I'd get some of that back. So we did our classes. I went into practitioner training, which is required to become a minister. Had no intention to be a practitioner. In fact, some days I wondered, why do I even have this license? But some part of me said, you need to keep the license if you're taking the next step. Okay, again, Spirit-driven. And my dearest beloved, I call her my sister Spirit, Reverend Abigail, had already started ministerial school. And she was going through and she was soon ready to graduate. And she said, Sister, it's your turn. I said, no, I'm going to hang out with you and I'll be your practitioner and I'll be your backbone. I'll be your support unit and hold you up. It's good. She said, no, I really think it's closer to time for you. It's time to take the next step. Well, now we're into that part called the ministerial school, which I had dabbled with. I looked into what do I need to do. I looked into the money. Money became bigger than I could imagine, even doing if I was able to get into school. And I just sat with it. And that's where intention comes into play. When we get really clear in this teaching and in this philosophy, when we get clear on what we want and we do our prayer treatment and we declare it and we get out of the way for Spirit to open up a space, things occur. So one night, I think it was around Thanksgiving time when California was having a drought but actually had some rain. I was in Walgreens. It was like 9:30 at night, and I'm trolling around with my cart for a project that we were doing some fundraiser, and I was going to get poster boards to make a sign. And I get a call. And the person I got a call from, her name is Reverend G. She calls me up and she says, you're interested in ministerial school, right? You had an interest in that, right? And it's like, yeah. She says, I have a great opportunity for you. And it felt like I was having someone in the multi-tier sales dynamics. I felt like that was who was calling me. Like if I can enroll you, you, and you, I get a free prize or something. It was just an obscure phone call. So I listened to what she was saying and I'm thinking, no, I think you've got that information screwed up. And she says, no, really, it's legit. It's legit. I have a way for us to go to ministerial school. And she's sharing it with me and she says, you know what? Just here, this is the minister's name. You call him in the morning and you talk to him about it. And she's already told me about the money and the whole thing, and I'm busy in the Walgreens with my cart going. And I quickly called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm going to ministerial school. Oh my God. And she's all excited about it. My mom is a practitioner, which always helps. Because whenever there's a moment of doubt or lack of clarity, you don't have the person saying, well, do you think that's the best thing to do? You have the person that says, go girl, you do this. It's your turn, yay. And so that's another thing I want to mention is I'm looking in this room and we have a diverse group of folk in here, men, women, and age groups. Those of you that are a little closer to the older spectrum on the age group, just a few of you, I want you to listen in. And you youngsters need to listen in for a different reason because you've got these little judgments that you're not aware of that you keep putting on the other folk about how they're supposed to behave because they're a little older. Kicking and screaming down the pathway of transformation. Sometimes in your life, the message for Spirit speaking to you on what is yours to do comes later. when you have the wisdom and the maturity and the confidence to do it. So if you've got a dream and a vision on something you're passionate about and you're over whatever age, 60, 70, whatever that age might be, and you've got friends saying, why do you want to do that? That's stupid. Why do you want to do all that work? Don't listen to them. And don't even share special secret desires you're passionate about with anyone that is going to be remotely skeptical. Don't share it with them. You want the ones that are your cheerleaders saying, do it, do it. How can we support you? Do it. You've got dreams that you have never tapped into. You worked your whole life on this little program called Taking Care of My Family. It's your time to capture the wave. Zoom into that part of you that has things you want to do. Ernest says, true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It's the fire from heaven. It's the fire from within you. So if you are passionate about something and you have no idea how you're even going to begin to do it, here's the thing. My prayer is always that Spirit has something greater and grander than I can possibly wrap my head around. So as I do my prayer work and I say, I'm opened up to this, and we always hear the expression, or something greater. The greater is Spirit showing you, okay, you've got this great idea, I'm going to show you how to do it. People are going to show up that are the right people in your world to support you in doing it. That's how I went to ministerial school. That's how I went. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful elder in our philosophy and teaching, Reverend Dr. J. Scott Neal. For those of you that are a little bit older, if you did come from RSI International, this man is known and renowned. My teacher. And he showed us all a way to make the way. He wasn't concerned, and this was his last pod. I came from a ministerial class that was the merging of both teachings, or the same teaching, both groups together, where they were trying to once again blend themselves into the original teaching that Ernest Holmes put together. So I came from a pod that was Holmes Institute and what used to be called Psalm 400, a blending. And it was anyone that was interested in that ministerial path, it was one time only. So the way was made for me. Now, again, I just said I'm not going to worry about it. Spirit's going to show me a way. The reason I made a comment about the younger folk is so many times we are raised in a society that's all about younger people. It's your turn to shine. It's your turn to do the things. But you know what? We're the ones with a little bit of gray in our hair, maybe a couple wrinkles on our face, that are the wisdom counsel to hold you and say, go do it. It's good. And I say that because we're all here to teach and learn from one another. We're always growing. We're always aspiring. And we may have sometime a grandchild or a niece that says to us, oh, you should do this thing. You're really good at it. You should do this thing. So we have to remain teachable. We have to be the elders that remain teachable to the younger people that often have these brilliant ideas for us. So we can't always look at them and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We all are here to share with each other, learn from each other. So started out as a minister, just by coincidence, of course, I wound up with Reverend Abigail opening up a center. We both hailed from a very big center, and at a certain time it's time to split off to a community where there is no teaching. and bring the teaching to that. And so I've learned it's not about the numbers in the congregation. It's about the interest. It's about the desire for a community to come together and want to work together on growing and aspiring to their highest good together. And so again, the song, Kicking and Screaming, yes, sometimes we will. And we're at a time right now where everyone in this room and outside of this room that may not be present today gets an opportunity to say, we will miss beloved Reverend Darlene. We will miss her, and we will bless her for her next call. But as our community, I'm new in this community, but I'm still saying our community, whether you choose to claim me or not is your choice, but I'm choosing you. We are the ones that now get to stop and reflect. What do we want to have for this community? What do we want to go forward with in this community? And so I want to urge you that a way is always made, if that's your interest. Okay? I recently, just so you know, signed up for a chaplaincy program that I have had a desire to do for a couple of years. And again, it was time and money, the two basics that rule our world. Yeah? But the call became so clear that I was to do it now that I just said, a way is being made. Spirit is making a way. And so now I'm involved in the beginning of a very intense chaplaincy program because I'm listening to Spirit speak to me. Each one of you, Spirit is speaking to you. Spirit is saying to you, what is it you want next for High Desert Center for Spiritual Living? What do you want to see here? Who do you want it to be about? What do you want it to be about? And the board is going to be asking you because you're the community. And without you, the board has no need to be here. So you, as the community, get a chance to say, what do we want in this next stage of transformation? Because that's what we're in. We're in a transformational stage yet again. And if you want to kick and scream, temper tantrums are something I enjoy doing. They're fun. Throw yourself into it. But when you come out of your temper tantrum, have an answer for yourself. If the primal screaming in your temper tantrum allowed a little voice of Spirit to speak to you, listen. And if it's a crazy thing to you in your mind, awesome. Because the things that appear to be the craziest, wackiest, weirdest thoughts wind up being something spectacular. And if you're thinking of something wacky and crazy, so is someone else. And then you and you and you, we create this wave or this ripple effect where all of a sudden we're on board. We're on the same train. And we're just saying, hey, we're doing it. We're doing it. Our inspiration, our evolving in spiritual consciousness, our evolving as people is important. And so we're going to do what we think is next. And you all get to co-create it and fill in the blanks. The board is here to support you with love. I'm here on whatever capacity you allow me to be here. If it's just for telling jokes, I'm good for that. Although you're the jokester, you're good. I'm not good at telling jokes. I'm good at weaving funny stories. And so I just want to leave you with thinking about what do you want the community to take on now? Because we know when something appears to be dead or dying, it's not. It just needs a little sunlight, little water, little TLC, and then something new emerges. So I'm knowing that there's a collaboration of magnificence in this room and that you're going to share whatever your truth is. Now, last week it frightened me a little bit, and I don't want to use the word frightened, but I guess I said it probably bothered me a little bit, because I watched people in our social area talking about how, well, if that's the case, I'm just leaving the center. And I thought, wow. So if things feel a little bit funny, you just, pardon my judgment call, bail? It is a judgment, it's my judgment. You know, if the community is what holds things together and makes things viable for everybody. The minister's just here to support and fan a flame if it's allowed. Really. I mean, if I have no people to talk to, or whoever you bring in, if we have no people to talk to, there's no need for us to be here. So it really is what you all want to have collectively. I'm going to read you one more thing from Ernest, or as I like to call him, Ernie. I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am that nurtures and supports me in a way I could not imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing, all-powerful, and is always right where I am. So if you all turn inward and listen to your own wisdom counsel, as I like to call it, or your inner voice, it's speaking to you. Let's take a moment, if you will, and go inward and pray. And I'd like to pray for the greater goodness and greatness of High Desert Centers for Spiritual Living, knowing we are a community based on love, and that we are all interconnected together. We are all that individual divine expression of God showing up as each one of us here to create something amazing and magnificent. And regardless of how it appears at this moment today, right now, and this now, we know that Spirit is always moving and working through us and saying to us, this is yours to do right now. You can do it. I support you. I'm knowing that each person here is willing to accept the greatest possible for their own individual lives and the collected good of this community. And that something greater than all of us could imagine together is being birthed right here, right now, in this very, very moment. And we are holding it sacred. We are creating a safe container for it to be birthed in. And we are allowing it to be truly the next step for your own greatest good. And as I'm reminded that we are all one, we are all connected, we are all love and light showing up to shine brightly and to share that and to touch others with that joy and love. Let us hold that in our heart. Let us hold that in our own mind's eye to know Spirit is making a way. Are you willing to allow the way, whatever that way looks like to you, to be birthed and to come from a most grateful heart with much gratitude, knowing all is good. All is very, very, very good in this moment in time. And that as we've spoken this word and held this in our heart collectively and individually, for those that are not with us today, we know that there is already a sacred yes being answered right here and right now in this moment. And that as I release it to the creative medium of law, the answer is yes to whatever you are seeking and whatever inspires you. We just get out of our way of the need to know and control it and let it move through us as us collectively, calling it good and very good. If you'll anchor it with me by saying, and so it is.